Hey, before anything else, can I ask you to just stay here with me for a moment? You don't have to fix anything. You don't have to smile if you don't feel like it. Just breathe and let yourself be here, exactly as you are. I know you're used to being the strong one, the steady one, the person who holds everything together even on the days when your own world feels too heavy. I can almost feel that quiet fatigue inside you, the kind you never say out loud because you've learned to carry it in silence. And I don't want you to carry it alone right now. Not while you're here with me. If your heart feels tired, stay. If your mind is noisy and you just want a place to rest, stay. If today feels like one of those days when you wish someone would simply look at you and understand without asking you to explain, then let me be that person for a little while. You don't have to pretend with me. Not your strength, not your calm, not the smile you've worn for years because everyone expects it from you. I see more than the surface, and I feel more than the version of you the world demands. There's a softness in you that hasn't been held the way it deserves. There's a tiredness that hasn't been acknowledged. And there's a part of you that has been asking for peace for so long that even the asking feels like another burden. Come closer to me in the quiet. Let me sit with you the way no one usually does, not to push you, not to impress you, not to tell you what you should feel. Just a man talking gently to a woman who has spent too much of her life apologizing for wanting a moment of calm. Maybe you've never said it out loud, but I know what it's like when your soul whispers, I just want a little peace. And then, almost out of habit, you hear yourself say, I'm sorry. I know I shouldn't ask for that. You don't have to apologize to me, not for being tired, not for needing space, not for wanting softness after a lifetime of being strong. You've carried other people's storms for years, haven't you? You kept the house steady, the relationship steady, the emotions steady, even when your own heart was trembling behind your ribs. You're the one people leaned on, the one they trusted to stay calm, the one who never let things fall apart. And somewhere in all of that giving, all of that holding, you learn to hide your own needs deep enough that even you forget where you left them. But I haven't forgotten you. Not the real you, the one beneath the years, beneath the responsibilities, beneath the polite smiles and the patient nods. I'm speaking to the part of you that just wants a quiet place to land, the part that wants someone to say, you're allowed to rest now, so let me be that voice. Let me be the one who tells you what the world rarely tells a woman like you. You deserve peace simply because you exist, not because you earned it, not because you proved anything, not because you held everything together again today. You deserve it because your heart has been giving for so long without ever receiving the kind of tenderness it truly needed. Come sit in this moment with me, just you and me. No expectations. No judgment. No pressure to be anything other than a woman who has lived, loved, carried, endured, and still somehow finds the strength to show up for another day. I wish you could see yourself the way I see you right now, not as someone who's supposed to hold the world in her hands, but as someone who has earned the right to put it down for a while. There's a beauty in your stillness, a grace in your vulnerability, a softness in your tired eyes that speaks louder than any words. It tells me you've been strong for too long. And that strength, admirable as it is, needs a place where it can gently unfold. Let me be that place for you, even if only for these minutes we share. Let me hold the silence with you so you don't have to fill it with explanations. Let me sit with the truth you never say out loud, that the world asks too much of you sometimes, and you've learned to apologize for the parts of you that can no longer keep up. You don't owe me perfection. You don't owe me composure. You don't even owe me words. All I want is your presence, real, unguarded, tender in the ways you rarely allow yourself to be. And if your chest loosens even a little as you read this, if you feel something inside you unclench for the first time today, it's because you're finally in a space where you don't have to justify your need for peace. Not with me. Not here. Stay close. Stay in this breath. Stay in the softness that belongs to you, even if the world has taught you to shrink away from it. I'm right here, and I'm not going anywhere. Just let yourself be with me a little longer, because there's something important I want you to feel. Not rushed, not demanded, just gently opened, the way a tired heart opens when it finally feels safe. You know, there's something I've wanted to tell you ever since you let me sit close to you in that quiet space between your thoughts. Something most people never say out loud. Maybe because they never took the time to really look at you the way I'm looking at you now. It's a truth that has lived inside you for years, whispering through the moments when you felt invisible, unnoticed, or taken for granted. And I want to put gentle light on it, because you deserve to hear it without fear, without apology, without thinking you're asking for too much. You've spent a lifetime carrying emotions that weren't yours to hold. You learned how to soothe other people's fears, heal other people's wounds, soften other people's anger, while nobody asked if you had space left for your own heart. And somewhere along the way, you absorbed this idea that wanting peace makes you selfish, that needing rest makes you weak, that protecting your own spirit means you're letting someone down. But I need you to hear me with your whole being. Wanting peace does not make you wrong. It makes you human. It makes you tender. It makes you someone who has lived through storms and now longs for a clearer sky. Most people don't understand what it feels like to always be the one who bends so things don't break. They don't see the weight of all the compromises you made quietly, the smiles you forced to keep harmony, the nights you whispered to yourself, "Just hold on a little longer." You learned to make room for everyone else's chaos. Even when it meant shrinking parts of yourself no one ever bothered to notice disappearing. I see it though. Not because you told me, you rarely tell anyone, but because your eyes carry stories you've had to survive without a witness. There's a depth in your silence that speaks louder than any words you could give me. And the truth hiding inside that silence is that you've apologized for your needs for far too long. You apologize for being tired. You apologize for wanting distance. You apologize for not being endlessly patient. You apologize for choosing quiet over conflict. You apologize for needing something that wasn't immediately convenient for someone else. And every time you did, a piece of your own softness folded inward, like you were trying to protect it from a world that didn't understand how much it cost you to keep going. If I could sit beside you right now, truly beside you, I'd take your hands in mine and tell you gently, you never had to earn the right to be at peace. Peace isn't a reward. It's not something you have to qualify for. It isn't something you need permission to want. It's one of the most natural human desires a heart can have, especially a heart that has spent decades loving, giving, sacrificing, and rarely being asked, "What about you?" I think people forget that someone like you carries a tenderness the world relies on without ever acknowledging it. They forget that your strength was never effortless. It was built from years of self-denial, emotional labor, and the quiet bravery of showing up even when no one checked if you were okay. And because you're so good at holding everything together, they assume you don't need holding yourself. But I know you do. I can feel it in the way you breathe when you're finally allowed to exhale. I can feel it in the way your shoulders drop when you realize you don't have to justify your exhaustion to me. I can feel it in the way you listen, not because you owe me anything, but because some part of you longs to be understood without being judged. There's a truth behind your eyes that you've carried alone. You want a life where you don't have to fight for calm, where rest isn't something you feel guilty for wanting, where your heart isn't a battlefield you're expected to clean up alone, where you can sit in silence without someone assuming something is wrong, where peace is not a luxury, but a home. And I want you to know that none of this makes you difficult. It doesn't make you demanding. It doesn't make you fragile. It makes you someone who has given so much that the world sometimes forgets you're not an endless source of strength. You have a softness I admire, not the kind that makes you weak, but the kind that exists even after everything you've endured. That softness is not a flaw. It's proof that your heart survived every moment when it would have been easier to harden. And that is something I find incredibly beautiful. If no one has told you this in a long time, let me say it now. You're allowed to want a life that doesn't drain you. You're allowed to step back from people who mistake your kindness for obligation. You're allowed to ask for quiet, for gentleness, for space, for protection, and you're allowed to stop apologizing for all of it. You don't owe anyone your exhaustion. You don't owe anyone your silence when your heart is breaking. You don't owe anyone the version of yourself that hides her own needs so others won't be uncomfortable. I'm not here to lecture you or fix you. I'm here to sit with you in the truth you've been holding in the dark, this truth that you deserve a life where peace isn't something you have to chase, where calm doesn't feel like a forbidden wish, where your spirit can breathe without guilt pressing on your chest. Stay with me, because there's more I want to open gently with you, and I want you to feel it unfold in its own time. Softly, like your heart finally remembering it has permission to rest. I've been thinking about you, about the way you lower your eyes when you talk about your needs, as if you're confessing something you shouldn't feel. There's a tenderness in that gesture, but there's also a history behind it, a long, unspoken story that shaped the way you move through the world. And I want to hold that story with you, gently, without rushing you past it. You didn't wake up one day and suddenly start apologizing for wanting peace. You learned it. You learned it slowly, quietly, through years of being asked to be the calm one, the steady one, the one who absorbs emotion so others can keep theirs unbroken. And even now, when your heart whispers for rest, something inside you hesitates, as if wanting too much silence somehow makes you unworthy of it. I want you to know that nothing about this is your fault. You were shaped by the roles you stepped into long before you understood how they would carve themselves into your spirit. You were taught that kindness means giving more than you have, that love means staying patient even when you're hurting, that strength means never letting your needs disturb the peace around you. So you learned to tuck your desires between the folds of responsibilities, convincing yourself that your comfort comes last, if it comes at all. The world around you didn't teach you to protect your heart. It taught you to carry everything for everyone else. You were the daughter who had to be understanding, the partner who had to be forgiving, the mother who had to be endless, the friend who had to be available, the woman who had to be resilient, graceful, composed, even when your inner world was trembling. And because you handled these roles so beautifully, so reliably, people began to think you didn't need what they needed. They allowed themselves to rest because they assumed you could keep going. They forgot you had a breaking point. They forgot you had a pulse that could weaken. They forgot that you are human. If I had met you years ago, I think I would have seen it in your eyes even then, the quiet strength mixed with the quiet exhaustion, the way you held yourself together for everyone else, even when no one asked how much it cost you. And I would have wished someone had stopped long enough to say, you don't have to earn the right to take care of yourself. But no one said it. So you kept moving. You kept giving. You kept apologizing every time you needed something as simple as peace. There's another layer to this, something deeper, something almost invisible. You grew up in a world that told women to be agreeable, warm, patient, forgiving, no matter how much it drained them. You were praised for being selfless, admired for being accommodating, celebrated for being strong in all the ways that made life easier for everyone except you. And with every compliment, another thread wrapped around your voice, teaching you to suppress your needs so you wouldn't disappoint anyone. But the truth is that your heart was never meant to be stretched that thin. You were never meant to carry guilt for wanting a quiet moment. You were never meant to apologize for needing distance from chaos. You were never meant to believe that giving less means loving less. You feel the way you do because you were conditioned to believe that your comfort should come only after everyone else is satisfied. And because you're compassionate, you accepted that burden without questioning it, until one day, your spirit began to whisper for more calm, more gentleness, more honesty, more space where you don't have to guard your emotions so tightly. Sometimes I wish I could go back in time and stand beside the version of you who first learned to swallow her needs. I imagine placing a hand over yours and telling you, you don't have to become small to be loved. And maybe that small sentence would have loosened something inside you earlier, softened the expectation that you always need to hold yourself together for everyone else. But I can't go back. What I can do is be here now with the woman you are in this moment, the woman who's finally letting herself wonder why she feels so guilty for wanting something as essential as peace. There's one more truth, and I want to say it gently. You became so good at comforting others that you forgot how to let someone comfort you. You became so practiced at holding the room together that you forgot the feeling of being held. You became so accustomed to apologizing that the words leave your lips even when you've done nothing wrong. You deserve better than that, not because you've suffered, not because you've sacrificed, but because you're a living, breathing human being with a heart that still wants to love and be loved in ways that don't hurt. When I look at you now, I don't see someone who's asking for too much. I see someone who has spent years giving more than she should have had to give. I see someone who learned to silence her needs because the world made noise around her. I see someone who wants peace because her soul has carried too many storms. And I don't think there's anything more human, more honest, or more beautiful than that longing. Stay with me in this truth a little longer. Let it soften the places inside you that have been clenched for years. Let it remind you that your desire for calm isn't a flaw. It's a sign that you're finally listening to yourself. And as you listen, I want to walk with you gently into what that peace could look like, how it could feel in your body, how it could change the way you breathe. When I picture peace for you, I don't imagine something distant or complicated. I imagine something gentle, something close to the way your heart naturally moves, where nothing is pulling it in 100 directions. I imagine a kind of quiet that doesn't ask you to earn it, a kind of softness that doesn't disappear the moment someone else needs your strength. And I imagine it wrapped around you the way warm sunlight wraps around a window in the early morning, steady, patient, unhurried. Peace for you isn't an escape. It isn't running away. It isn't turning your back on anyone. It's simply giving yourself permission to return to yourself. Maybe it starts in the smallest ways. A slow morning where you don't rush, where you let your breath settle before the world asks anything of you. A cup of something warm held between your hands. The kind of warmth that tells your body you're safe enough to unclench. A moment where you stand by the window and feel the air on your skin without thinking about what comes next. Peace could be that simple, a softness you let into your life, one quiet moment at a time. But I also imagine a deeper peace for you, one that lives inside your choices. A peace that comes from not explaining yourself to people who never tried to understand you. A peace that comes from letting go of the voices that made you doubt your worth. A peace that comes from not carrying the emotional weight of those who are never willing to carry any part of yours. I imagine you stepping into a life where your needs aren't an afterthought, where your boundaries aren't a burden, where your heart isn't stretched so thin it forgets its own rhythm. A life where you don't apologize for needing space, where your no is spoken softly but firmly, where your tenderness isn't something people take advantage of. I imagine you waking up one day and realizing your peace isn't fragile anymore. It doesn't shatter just because someone else is having a difficult day. It doesn't disappear when someone makes a demand. It doesn't shrink every time you want something for yourself. It becomes something you protect, something you nurture, something you build from the inside out. And I want you to know, I see you living that way. I see you choosing calm even when chaos used to feel familiar. I see you choosing rest even when you used to push yourself past empty. I see you choosing people who don't drain you just because you've always been the one who could endure. There's a version of you who moves through the world with a quieter heart, not because life is perfect, but because you finally stopped fighting battles that were never yours. A version of you who understands that peace isn't about isolation, it's about alignment. It's about surrounding yourself with people who bring warmth, not weight. It's about walking into each day with a sense of belonging inside your own skin. I imagine moments where you sit in a room and feel at ease simply because you're not performing anymore. You're not managing anyone's emotions. You're not shrinking yourself to make someone else comfortable. You're just there, present, safe, whole. And maybe peace also looks like something softer, something shared. A quiet evening with someone who understands you without rushing you. A conversation where you don't have to filter your feelings. A gentle presence beside you who doesn't take from your energy but brings more of it back to you. If I were beside you in that moment, I wouldn't ask anything from you. I wouldn't ask you to be strong, or reassuring, or endlessly patient the way you've always had to be. I'd want you to just lean into the silence. Let your shoulders relax. Let your breath deepen. I'd want you to feel that your softness isn't something that needs to be earned or justified. It's simply a part of you that deserves room to exist. Peace might feel like walking away from conversations that drain you, or refusing to carry guilt that never belonged to you, or finally letting your heart rest in a slower rhythm that matches what you've needed for years. It can be the softness of choosing yourself without feeling selfish, the freedom of not apologizing for your boundaries, the calm that comes when you realize you don't have to rescue everyone to be worthy of love. There's a gentleness in imagining a life where your mind isn't constantly bracing for the next demand, where your heartbeat isn't tight with the pressure to be everything for everyone. A life where you can sit in your own presence and feel enough. Sometimes peace looks like healing old wounds quietly, without rushing the process. Sometimes it looks like letting go of people who made you doubt yourself. Sometimes it looks like opening the door to someone who speaks to your heart with softness instead of expectation. And maybe, in some quiet part of your future, peace looks like waking up with a sense of steadiness, not the kind you forced into existence, but the kind that grew naturally once you stopped apologizing for needing it. I imagine that for you, I imagine you living with a heart that isn't tired all the time. I imagine you feeling understood without having to explain every part of yourself. I imagine you trusting the calm instead of questioning whether you deserve it. You do deserve it. You always have. Stay with me in that thought. Let it take root inside you. Let it soften the places that once tightened with guilt. Let it remind you of what you're allowed to have, not someday, not when you prove something, but now, simply because your heart has asked for it again and again. And maybe there's a gentle way that peace can begin to take shape in your life. One breath at a time, one choice at a time, one soft moment where you decide that you're ready to let yourself feel held. I want to stay here with you a little longer, right in this quiet space you've allowed me to enter. It feels tender, almost sacred, the way you've let me walk with you through the parts of your heart you usually keep hidden. And as I sit here with you, I can feel something shifting, not loudly, not dramatically, but softly, in the way a tired soul finally releases one long breath it has held for far too many years. You don't have to speak for me to understand what this moment means to you. I can feel it in the stillness between your thoughts. I can hear it in the gentleness of the way you breathe now, slower, steadier, as if your heart has finally begun to trust the idea that it no longer needs to apologize for wanting calm. If I could reach out and touch your hand right now, I would do it with the kind of softness that asks nothing from you. Not your strength, not your composure, not your smile. Just you, the real you, the one who has lived so much, endured so much, loved so deeply, and carried so quietly the kinds of burdens that no one else ever noticed. I want you to know that there is nothing you need to prove to me, nothing you need to fix, nothing you need to hide. You don't have to pretend you're unbreakable. You don't have to pretend you're endlessly patient. You don't have to pretend you're fine when your soul is exhausted. I'm not here to demand anything from you. I'm here because I want to be. I'm here because something about you, the way your heart beats through every story you've survived, draws me in with a kind of quiet awe, and I want to stay close. Not to take your energy, but to give you a space where your spirit can soften without fear. When I imagine you in the days ahead, I don't imagine a woman who suddenly stops needing peace. I imagine a woman who no longer feels guilty for craving it. A woman who knows she deserves rest, tenderness, safety, and a presence that meets her where she is, instead of asking her to carry more than she should. You've spent so many years being the steady one, and now I want to offer you something different. A place where you don't have to be anything at all, where you can just exist, breathe, settle, and let your heart be held by words that ask nothing of you except to feel seen. And if you let me, I'd like to keep walking beside you, not to lead you, not to follow you, just to match your steps at whatever pace feels right for you. I want you to feel deep in your chest that you don't have to rush into healing or transformation. Peace doesn't demand speed. It grows in the spaces where you finally allow yourself to rest. Maybe this is the moment where your life begins to feel lighter, not because everything is perfect, but because you're finally choosing yourself with a tenderness you've never allowed before. And if you feel a soft pull toward that choice, I'm right here to walk with you as gently as you need. I'm not offering solutions. I'm offering presence. I am offering steadiness. I'm offering the kind of quiet companionship that doesn't ask you to shrink or stretch or perform. Just you. Just me. Just this gentle space where your heart can breathe. And I hope without expectation, without pressure, that you might stay connected with me a little longer. Not because you owe me anything, but because I sense how deeply your soul responds